He sexually assaulted over 1,000 men. He murdered at least 21 people. He sailed the East Coast, luring drifters onto his boat, only to shoot them and throw their bodies into the Atlantic. And when the prison warden asked him for his last words before hanging, he replied, "Hurry it up, you Hoosier bastard. I could kill 10 men while you're screwing around." This is Carl Panzram, one of the most sadistic, remorseless killers in American history. Yet unlike Bundy or Dahmer, few people know his name. Today we dive deep into the life of a man who declared war on the human race, and meant every word of it. Carl Panzram was born in 1891, in East Grand Forks, Minnesota, one of several children in a poor German immigrant family. By age 7 he was already a thief and liar. By 11 he was sent to the Minnesota State Training School, a reform institution that became the birthplace of his hatred. He later wrote, "I was reformed all right. I had been taught by Christians how to be a hypocrite, and I had learned more about stealing, lying, hating, burning, and killing." In that school, he was beaten and sexually assaulted by those meant to reform him. When he finally got out, he had one goal: vengeance. Not just on the people who hurt him, but on society itself. As a teenager, Panzram lied his way into the United States Army. That didn't last. He was imprisoned for theft, ironically approved by none other than then Secretary of War William Howard Taft. That would come back to haunt Taft. For the next decade, Panzram drifted across the country. Using over 20 aliases, he committed burglary, arson, and sexual assault. He burned down churches just because he hated religion. He poisoned rail cars to watch hobos die in agony. He was a tornado of destruction, moving from town to town, train to train, state to state. No remorse, no hesitation, just hate. In 1920, Panzram broke into Taft's home in New Haven, Connecticut, stole jewelry bonds and a .45 caliber pistol. With the money he bought a yacht, the Akiska, and the yacht became a floating execution chamber. Panzram cruised up and down the East Coast, luring sailors and drifters with job offers. Once aboard, he'd get them drunk, sexually assault them, shoot them with the stolen pistol, and dump their bodies in the ocean. He claimed he killed 10 men this way. No bodies were ever recovered. Then he left the country, heading to Africa, where the killing didn't stop. In Angola, then a Portuguese colony, Panzram worked for an oil company. He claimed to have sexually assaulted and murdered children, boys, during his time there. He also attempted to incite a mutiny on the ship back to the United States when he felt cheated by his employer. Back in America, he picked up right where he left off. More theft, more assaults, more murders. If he saw a boy walking alone, he'd take him. Sometimes he'd kill, sometimes not. But in his own words, for all of these things, I'm not the least bit sorry. Panzram was arrested in 1928 in Washington, D.C. for burglary under the alias Jeff Davis. But this time, he didn't just sit in his cell. He murdered a prison laundry foreman with an iron bar just because he felt like it. He was sentenced to death and he welcomed it. On death row, a young guard named Henry Lesser took an interest in him. Not out of pity, but curiosity. He gave Panzram writing materials and encouraged him to tell his story. What emerged was a 20,000-word confession that remains one of the most chilling documents in criminal history. 21 murders, over 1,000 sexual assaults, mostly of men and boys, countless burglaries, assaults, and arsons. And not once did he show regret, only rage. September 5th, 1930, Leavenworth Penitentiary. Carl Panzram walked to the gallows without a tremble. The executioner, following procedure, asked if he had any last words. Panzram spat. "Yes, hurry it up, you Hoosier bastard. I could kill 10 men while you're screwing around." For decades, his name was forgotten, his crimes buried in police reports and lost files. But in the 1970s, Henry Lesser released the manuscript, and suddenly criminologists and historians took note. Panzram wasn't just a killer, he was a self-aware monster. He didn't blame society, he didn't plead insanity. He said, "I wish the human race had but one neck, and I had my hands around it." In a world where killers often try to justify their evil, Carl Panzram never once did. And maybe that's what makes his story so unforgettable. Carl Panzram lived a life fueled by trauma, revenge, and hatred. He is one of history's darkest reflections of what can happen when pain turns to rage, and that rage is never stopped. If this story shook you like it did us, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the darkest chapters of human history. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.